What's going on, people? Welcome back to the FF Ballbusters podcast. Today is Friday, April 28th. Technically, it is midnight. We are recording this directly after the NFL draft. Wanted to get this video done for you guys because we wanted to give you a day one recap and just some of our initial thoughts on these players and their landing spots now that we officially have them for the first round. And how you feeling today? My name is Will, and joining me is my co-host, Eric. How you feeling today, brother?
Almost forgot to introduce you.
Dog, I'm just so excited, man. I'm so geeked up to talk about this. We finally got it.
Same. It's been a long day, a long night of just draft analysis, watching these picks come off the board. But yeah, super excited. Looking forward to day two, and looking forward to kind of going not super in depth because we'll have next week out that covers everything, but touching on all of these picks so far on day one.
Yeah, so we're not going to go too in-depth like Eric said. We're going to kind of speed through these a little bit, especially some of the ones that we saw coming. And kicking it off is one that we did see coming from a little while back. We got Bryce Young to the Carolina Panthers at quarterback. Exactly what we said before. It's not the greatest landing spot in terms of talent that's going to be around Bryce Young himself, but himself as a prospect, we still expect him to do good things. So anything you got on this one, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, it's what we've been talking about. Like you said, it's been a lock for a long time. He's got an okay offensive, not a great group around. I like the coaching staff, so I think, for Dynasty future purposes, he's going to be good. I guess one thing I want to ask you, and we'll talk more about it once we get through more of the quarterbacks, but like, what do you think is the ceiling outcome for Bryce Young? Because he gets the draft capital. But like we said, not a great landing spot. And with his kind of prospect profile, what do you see as his ceiling outcome?
The ceiling outcome, it's going to be tough to tell because like you said, it's going to depend on whether the team can build around him properly and how they handle the years after that he gets drafted. In terms of his ceiling, I could see him being sort of like a Kyler Murray type prospect in terms of, obviously stature or whatnot, but in terms of talent and what he can do on the field, sort of that top 5 to top 10 finish for a quarterback, at least in terms of ceiling. I don't know.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of just his talent alone, yeah, I think he can get there. But the team will have to build around him. They got to get talent there.
For sure. Yeah, I look at him and Stroud. I think we've talked about this before in other videos. Their ceiling would be like a Burrow type player.
That's true.
But I don't know that. I don't think either of them are going to be Joe Burrow. I love the investment. I love what these guys got, but I see these guys kind of like back end QB ones. I just feel like that's what they're going to be.
Okay. No, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't have the ceiling of some players that we will talk about later, but yeah, they could end up middling out as well.
In a Superflex Dynasty league, that can especially do it consistently for the next decade or whatever the case may be. I can see that happen. I just don't know that they have like the peak ceiling that some people are projecting right now.
No, I feel that. It'll stand to be seen, but we are a little bit more optimistic about the next pick's landing spot than we are about Bryce Young in terms of C.J. Stroud landing at the Houston Texans second overall, correct?
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, I was really hoping that we were going to see the pairing of him and JSN, but then the Texans traded up 3 to get Will Anderson. So yeah, I don't see it as like a crazy different scenario from Carolina, but maybe a slightly better one.
Yeah, I definitely feel that one. But the one that we're really excited about is the 4th overall pick, Mr. Anthony Richardson to the Colts. When we saw this pick, Eric definitely left his seat. He was extremely excited.
I jumped up.
And
this is what we've been dreaming of.
So the first question I asked him when he sat back down after, 5 minutes of, him blowing off a little bit of steam, I asked him, does this mean Gardner Minshew starts and Anthony Richardson sits behind him, or does Anthony Richardson immediately get the nod? And what was your answer to that, Eric?
Day one, baby. He's on the field. This is too early a draft capital.
Yeah, and I completely agree. Fourth overall, that's the capital. He's the investment. So you don't draft somebody fourth overall and have them sit. I mean, unless you're the San Francisco 49ers, but that's a different story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Anthony Richardson, in my opinion, people want to call him a project. People want to crap on him for not having the accuracy and stuff like that. And like, not that it's completely unwarranted, but Anthony Richardson has like top tier pocket awareness and pocket mobility, unlike Trey Lance, unlike Justin Fields, who we saw have a fantastic season and is now like a top 6 dynasty quarterback. He took so many sacks. Anthony Richardson is not going to do that. I think he needs to clean up his footwork, and I think kind of marry his lower body with upper body to improve those accuracy issues. And again, this is all stuff that we've talked about in previous videos, but I don't see him as raw of a prospect as a lot of people are talking about him as. And I couldn't be more excited for him. Shane Steichen as his head coach, who we just saw Jalen Hurts into a Super Bowl bound quarterback. He's got a decent offensive line, decent weapons group, probably the best situation he could have asked for out of these, top few picks.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He's got great weapons around him. It's just a great landing spot, honestly.
Just real quick before we move on, he's the 102, right? Like he's
the 102. He's the 102, especially if he's on the field day one. Yeah, he's the 102. Absolutely.
Zero doubt in my mind. Honestly, I don't know if I could pull the trigger, but wouldn't hate him at 1.
Yeah, like, I would not hate that.
I'm that ready. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Anthony Richardson, with that team, with that landing spot, with the potential he has, he's the 102. Absolutely.
It's perfect. Yeah.
And then moving on to the potential 101, up for debate at this point now, Mr. Bijan Robinson landed with the Atlanta Falcons. This is one of the more exciting landing spots for him as a prospect because we know in an Arthur Smith offense, he's going to get a lot of usage. But, if you're a Kyle Pitts owner, just about anybody getting added to this team, you hate to see it when that team loves that kind of player, But what do you think about this one, Eric?
I mean, like you said, it couldn't be more perfect. Bijan was landing spot proof. It didn't matter where he was going to go. He was going to be
the guy
in that 101 conversation, whether it's the smash spot, landing spot that would, make there be any argument. But going to Atlanta, like you said, with Arthur Smith, like this dream fit. He's going to get so much opportunity. He's going to be deployed so creatively. He's going to be their entire offense. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, he's going to quite literally be carrying the team on his back because, Atlanta loved to run the ball last year, and now they've got a premier running back there to do it, so they're absolutely going to do it this year. And then taking a look at the next running back off the board, nobody saw this coming.
Jeez, bro.
2 running backs in the top 12. Jahmyr Gibbs to the Detroit Lions. Can we get an RIP DeAndre Swift in the chat? Please. Can we get a moment of silence even?
He's done.
He's absolutely done. The team brought in David Montgomery. That was just, sort of a replacement for Jamal Williams. We didn't look too much into it. We just thought it'd be a 1-2 punch, him, DeAndre Swift. But apparently they fucking hate that guy. So they brought in Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama, who is DeAndre Swift on steroids just about. In just about every facet that you could think of. What do you think about that one, Eric?
The only downside is that he's he doesn't have the prototypical size, but he's a better receiver. I think he's probably a more consistent in between the tackles. He's just as explosive. He's faster. Yeah, I think this is an amazing landing spot for Jahmyr Gibbs. He gets to maybe now that Isaac Seumalo is out of Philly, like this might be the best offensive line in football in Detroit. He gets to play with the check down king in Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Like he's going to eat.
Jared Goff owners, get excited about that because that is good for you as well.
Yeah.
And DeAndre Swift owners, I feel your pain. I'm sorry that happened to you. I really am because It's unfortunate. It really is. A little funny,
You hate
but
to see it.
it's a little funny. But
Yeah.
moving on to the next weapon, we waited a little while till we saw the next one come off the board. But at 20 overall, we've
Yeah.
got JSN, Mr. Jackson Smith and Jigba, going to the Seattle Seahawks. This is just a great receiving core between him, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. It's just a great landing spot for him. He's got Geno Smith at quarterback. He's got Pete Carroll at head coach, who apparently still a pretty good offensive coach as of last year, still able to put together a great offense. What do you think about this landing spot?
I like it a lot. I've seen on Twitter, like the reactions and stuff, some people saying they hate it, some people saying, there's too many mouths to feed. I think they all feel different. DK is clearly the X, he's the outside guy. And Tyler Lockett, even at his size, plays a lot on the outside. So I think the slot role is wide open for Jackson Smith and Jigba to come right in. And yeah, like it is a lot of mouths to feed. So maybe it caps the ceiling a little bit in the short term, but Tyler Lockett is, starting to age out. He's not going to be there forever. And I think it's the perfect complement to DK. Like that's a 1-2 punch that's going to be nasty for years. So I wouldn't be fading JSN just because he slid a little bit further than we were expecting.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I think he's entering into a good offense with a good quarterback, a good competent quarterback, a good supporting cast around him, so it's not like everybody can focus on him at all times. You still got two other great weapons. Not even to mention Kenneth Walker's still able to receive out of the backfield as well, so it's a great situation for him out there, honestly.
And for sure. Yeah, the Seahawks offense in general, it's going to be exciting out there.
Absolutely. And then the next weapon off the board, Mr. Quentin Johnston out of TCU to the Los Angeles Chargers. This is one that actually had me and Eric stop for a little bit after the pick was made because we thought about the landing spot and we were like, wow, that's a great fit. And that is an absolutely great fit with the two of Mike Williams and QJ on the outside, Keenan Allen in the slot. That is a dangerous receiving core. Absolutely dangerous.
It's so good. Yeah, it's, similar situation. And you can make that argument. But Keenan, same deal. He's aging out. Mike Williams, we'll see if he can stay healthy. But even if they're all on the field together, we talked about it, during the draft. Keenan is the slot god. He's going to control that portion of the field. Mike Williams is the outside kind of 50-50 jump ball guy. And then Quentin Johnston can be your field stretcher and your guy. So, like, they can all fill different and all participate in what we hope to be, a high-paced, high-volume offense. Justin Herbert at the helm and with Kellen Moore as the new OC.
Yeah, we can only hope that they can definitely pick up the pace from where they were last year in terms of just plays ran and just overall offense. But they've absolutely got every weapon they could need at this point. So that's definitely exciting going forward for that. I love that landing spot for him. And it was apparently a fire sale at this point because we had 4 receivers off the board. The next one is Zay Flowers out of Boston College going to the Baltimore Ravens. This was one of the ones that we were a little bit less excited about than the rest. Like, it's still a good landing spot for a good player. So let's not let that discourage anybody. It's still a good player in a good situation, but it stands to be seen just how high a ceiling can be in this offense. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a waiting game. I am excited. The new offensive coordinator in Baltimore, Todd Monken, is probably bringing with him a more spread out, more pass-heavy attack than we've seen in Baltimore in recent years. And so I think that could lead to good things for Lamar, and I think it could lead to good things for these pass catchers. But I think Mark Andrews is still going to be the focal point. I think Rashad Bateman shouldn't be forgotten. I think he's still a fantastic receiver as long as he can stay healthy, which is a question mark. And Bateman actually showed a part of his game that prospect where he was kind of a downfield threat last year. So if he continues to do that, then Zay can work kind of the intermediate areas of the field. But that's where I feel like Rashad Bateman does his best work. So they might be kind of butting heads a little bit in that area.
Yeah, I think this is one where we got, like you said, we have 2 very similar players in a very similar spot. So it's going to stand to be seen how it is the team decides to deploy the 2 of them. But it was one of the more head scratching moments, but also it was them taking, I guess, the best talent at the time. So I'm not mad at them for taking.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily head scratching, like from an NFL perspective for the Ravens. I think they're just getting, another weapon to add and help out Lamar, with this contract situation. They wanted to give him all of the assets invested in the team. And as a Lamar truther, as anybody that owns Lamar Jackson, I'd be ecstatic for that in fantasy. But yeah, it's we're gonna have to wait and see what this offense does become under Todd Monken, and if they can kind of differentiate and carve out different roles for him and Bateman before I get too excited about him as a fantasy asset.
Yeah, so this is now a receiver room of Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, and Odell Beckham Jr. So this is going to be definitely interesting, along with Mark Andrews as well. But
Yeah.
And then moving on to the next fantasy asset that came off the board, it was the wide receiver out of USC, Mr. Jordan Addison, to the Minnesota Vikings. This is one I actually liked a lot as well. I think he's going to pair up very, very well with Mr. Justin Jefferson out there. What did you think about this landing spot for Mr.
I love it. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think, he's an upgrade over Adam Thielen. And all the people that were hyping up KJ Osborne, like, you should have known better. You should have known better.
All right, and moving on to the next fantasy asset that came off the board. At 24th overall, we got the wide receiver out of USC, Mr. Jordan Addison, to the Minnesota Vikings. Personally, this is a pick that I liked a lot. I like this landing spot. I think he'll pair up pretty well with Mr. Justin Jefferson. What do you think about this landing spot?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. They immediately, found a placement for Adam Thielen. If there was anybody out there that was hyping up KJ Osborne, like, you should have seen this coming. He was never destined to be the wide receiver. But Jordan Addison specifically, let me not get carried away. I think he's going to fit in really well in this offense. Justin Jefferson can be that underneath guy, but he can play anywhere. Jordan Addison can be that slot. Is going to soak up a lot of targets, and he's going to make Kirk Cousins' life a lot easier.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think we got two guys that are great at running routes out there that are just going to be breaking ankles left and right out there. So I really do like this landing spot for Jordan Addison. I think it's a good spot for him. And the next one that we have, what's up? What's up?
Do you see, they're talking about shipping off Dalvin Cook.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see this offense going even more pass heavy now?
If they ship off Dalvin Cook, I absolutely could, yeah. I could see them throwing the ball a lot more, especially since they still have TJ Hawkinson as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see this being a real nice fantasy spot for all of these, because it's not that many. It's not like too many mouths seen in situations and put up numbers.
Absolutely. And then taking a look at the next one that we have off the board, we got Mr. Dalton Kincaid out of Utah to the Buffalo Bills. They actually traded up to make this pick. This was apparently their guy, and I kind of love the fact that they traded up for this pick, because that shows that they really do like him out there. So what do you think about this one, Eric?
From an NFL perspective, I don't know that it was necessarily the smartest, especially because the Cowboys didn't even go tight end at 26.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were worried they were going to take either Kincaid or Mayer or whatever the case was. But yeah, from a fantasy perspective, it shows that this was the guy that they had zeroed in on. He's who, and so I think that that's a positive for his fantasy outlook. And we were talking about it like before they made the pick. I was like, maybe they go slot receiver. It would feel like a little bit of a reach, but like a Josh Downs type or something like that would fit well into this offense. Honestly, Dalton Kincaid can fill that slot role. It doesn't need to be a receiver. I think he's a much better receiving tight end than Dawson Knox, and he can be that middle of the field guy that they need.
Absolutely, and he's got the moves, he's got the hands, he's got just the receiving ability all in itself. Like, he's not the best blocker out there, but in terms of receiving in this tight end class, he's at the top of it. So absolutely. And then taking a look at the next asset that was taken off the board. That's actually the last
I think
one.
that's it.
Yeah, that was the last one
off
the board. Right,
we only had, we were worried a little bit there as far as the first round values that we were gonna get in the in our rookie mock, as no wide receivers were coming off the board until we got to 20 with JSN, and then we got 4 ripping off all back to back to back to back. So that was exciting to see. But I'll throw it back to you on your overall thoughts from this first round and what it means for the first round of our upcoming rookie drafts.
So I was actually pretty excited with just about all of these landing spots. I think every single landing spot that we got out of all these assets, every single one of them was good. So in terms of how this is going to affect our rookie drafts coming up, I think if you have one of these guys and they were one of your first round guys, I think now that we know where they're at, in terms of their value, I don't even really think anything's really changed too much. I think in terms of the rankings and the stuff that we put together, besides, Will Levis falling out of the first round, of course, but
yeah.
but I think a lot of the values haven't really changed all too much. I think it just depends on who it is that you value and who you like the most, really, and where they fall to you in the draft, because I don't dislike any of these players in their landing spots.
Yeah, I think you're right in that the rankings didn't change too much, but I think the value for everybody, like if you're trying to move picks, that price just went up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that's
yes.
something.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's something to take into consideration. We're not going to go into like specific rankings. We'll be doing mock draft videos coming out, but just general thoughts. We already talked about Anthony Richardson. He's our locked-in 102 and our QB1. Bijan, obviously, 101, like great spot. Jahmyr Gibbs, does this shake anything up for you in terms of him versus JSN?
I might like him a little bit more than JSN, just a little bit. I think I like him a little bit more, especially in that Detroit Lions offense, especially in the role that he's going to have in that Detroit Lions offense. Yeah.
It's so nice. It's so nice. If you're on a rebuilding team, I wouldn't mind it either way. Because typically I would prefer a team, their shelf life is just longer. And like I said, I'm not discounting JSN just because he went at 20. I'm still happy with his landing spot. But even if you draft Gibbs and trade him away, like the value for him spikes with him going in the top 15. Like we did not expect that at all. So yeah, if I'm competing, I'm taking Jahmyr Gibbs. If I'm rebuilding, it's kind of a tough.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if you're rebuilding, it's a toss-up, but you probably want to lean wide receiver in that case because just like you said, like the value lasts a little bit longer there, makes a little bit more sense. It's an asset you can hold on to for longer. But if you're trying to compete and you need a Lamborghini out there, I think that's a Lamborghini right there.
Yeah.
I think that's a Lamborghini right there.
100%.
But yeah, that's going to kind of wrap up some of our thoughts right there. What's up? What you got right there?
I just wanted to touch on one more thing. We don't need to go through receiver rankings. We'll talk about that but we just talked about JSN versus Gibbs. Do either of these guys creep up above any of the backs now for their landing spots?
They might creep up over Bryce Young.
You think so?
They might creep up over Bryce Young.
I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson's locked in 102.
No.
He's locked in 102.
Yeah, for sure. We're in agreement there.
Yeah. But that's going to go ahead and that's going to wrap up our thoughts on this one. It was kind of an exciting draft, honestly. We had a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah.
We had a good time watching this one, and we're excited to see how day 2 goes as well. There's still a lot of assets out there, and just because they're going on day 2 doesn't mean they aren't valuable. And we're going to try to keep you guys as up to date as we can and give you guys our full thoughts later once the entire draft is completed. With that being said, make sure you guys check out the links in the description below to all of our sponsors over there at Underdog Fantasy, Dynasty Owner, and Do Numbers. And also, you can check out for the link to our Discord. You can join our community, come and talk to some of the other people that talk fantasy, talk Dynasty, all sorts of stuff. And Eric, you got anything else for the people before we go?
Just do all that good YouTube stuff for us. Drop a like. We'd very much appreciate the subscribe button so that you can see our videos coming out in the future. Like I said, we'll have wrap-ups for day 2. We'll have a full wrap-up for the entire draft. We'll have mock drafts coming out with all the landing spots. So be ready for that. Subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. But yeah, thank you for sticking with us. We love you as always, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.